Hello, I'm William King, and you've stumbled across this episode of Manx Radio's newscast. Last July, metal detectorist John Smart stumbled across a small piece of metal which he suspected may have been something special. It turns out it was a Viking Age silver ingot, and it's been declared treasure by the Coroner of Inquests. It's now on display in the Manx Museum. To find out how John knew there was more to this metal bar than meets the eye, and learn about what counts as treasure, I went to speak to John and Manx National Heritage's Curator of Archaeology, Allison Fox.
I think you have a wish that it's something special, but as you see from that, you can't really determine exactly what it is. But there is a suspicion there that it is something important or historic. So obviously you've got to go back and try and research it.
And how long have you been using your metal detector for?
I've been detecting. Well, I've had a detector for over 40 years, but the first 20 years of it, I was still at work and it was very difficult to actually detect. But over the last 20 years, I've been freer over the last 20 years to detect. So 20 years I've been detecting.
Fantastic. And have you found anything this significant before?
While I was in the UK, obviously I've only been in the Isle of Man 10 years now, but in the UK we used to detect with obviously a club in the UK, and I have actually got some treasure in there, but again it's a Tudor dress hook, a silver gilt Tudor dress hook, which was fantastic as hell at the time. But this is the only thing that's of any interest to the Isle of Man since I've been in the Isle of Man.
What is it that you enjoy about metal detectoring?
I think it's the weight, it's the thought of finding something of interest. I mean, some people call it earth fishing, which is very similar to if you're a fisherman and you've got a float in the water and it's stagnant, it's stationary, and then suddenly it just bobs, and suddenly the anticipation of what's at the end of there. And very similar to metal detecting. You're detecting over land with nothing, soundless, and suddenly there's a little beep, and suddenly, the interest of what could that be. Inevitably, it's a pull tab or a bottle top, but sometimes it could be a little Viking silver ingot.
Fantastic. And do you go alone, or do you go with other people?
In our club, the Manx Detectorist Society on the island, we do have club digs occasionally. That's great to detect with other people, but inevitably most people detect on their own or with a partner.
And is it nice sort of escapism, I guess? Nice to sort of reason for getting outside?
It's fantastic because, I mean, the environment, the outside in the fields, it's quiet, it's clear. It's a fantastic hobby to get involved in.
Tell me, where did you find this ingot?
This ingot was found specifically down south.
That's all we can say. And I don't know, Alison, whether you're the right person to answer this, but what counts as treasure?
There is a specific legal definition of treasure which is laid out in the Treasure Act 2017. So there's lots of different categories of things that might be treasure. One of the main things is it cannot have an owner. So it must be ownerless. So that's why things that are very ancient and have no traceable owner can be declared treasure. For things made of precious metal as well, it has to be higher than 10% metal content. There's lots of other definitions as well. But for this particular find of John's, what we were looking for was that precious metal content and the fact that it's 1,000 years old as well.
So it's 1,000 years old. What does that mean? Who do we think left it behind?
So this is pretty much in the heyday of the Vikings on the Isle of Man. If we think the Vikings probably first made contact with the island towards the end of the 800s, this ingot dates from anywhere between, say, 950 and 1050. The Vikings saw the advantage of the Isle of Man as being a perfect place for trading, and this kind of wealth that we see coming up fairly often, really, compared to other places in the Isle of Man, illustrates that the Vikings were here and they were wealthy and they were trading from the island.
Right, so this is the type of thing which would have been used as an item of trading, would it? Or, yeah?
Yeah, so this is a piece of Viking Age currency. I often compare it to a credit card, essentially, because the value is in its silver content. Then the Vikings could take that ingot and they could spend it on the Isle of Man, they could take it back home to Norway, they could take it over to Newfoundland, or they could take it out to the Middle East. Because it was the silver that was important, they could spend that anywhere within the Viking world. So there's no signs on this one that it's been in circulation for a particularly long time, but these ingots and sometimes the coins that are buried with them can have travelled an awful long way before they found themselves in the ground in the Isle of Man.
Fascinating, isn't it? And so it's silver in this one. Are there other metals in there as well?
We had some analysis done. This particular ingot gave us a bit of a puzzle when John first reported it, because it, shape-wise and style-wise, it looked exactly like a Viking Age ingot. But the tests we were able to do here weren't giving us a certain degree of silver precious metal content. So we thought there might be more copper in there might be more lead in there. We know that the Vikings did use lead ingots and copper ingots, and I don't want to, disparage any Viking reputation, but sometimes things looked like silver and perhaps had a little more lead or copper in them. So we needed to make sure that there was at least over 10%. So we had the assistance of Dr. Nicola George from the School of Archaeology in the University of Liverpool. Our conservator, Christopher Weeks, took the ingot over, and they, through some fantastic scientific analytical methods, and so we know now that it's got a silver content of around about 90%.
Great. I mean, so as well as giving us this peek into the past, why is it special to find something and be able to declare that it is treasure?
I think it's significant because it just helps fill in another little piece in the jigsaw of what was going on the Isle of Man in the Viking Age. We know it was a wealthy place. We know the Vikings were important. We know they settled here. As John said, this was a find from the south of the island, and it was from an area where we haven't had perhaps as much similar material coming up as we have from elsewhere in the island. We're a very small place, but to just have that little extra geographical dot of where the Vikings were holding this wealth is really important as well.
Thank you for making it to the end of the Little Manx Radio newscast. You are obviously someone with exquisite taste. May I politely suggest you might want to subscribe to this and a wide range of Manx Radio podcasts at your favourite podcast provider, so our best bits will magically appear on your smartphone. Thank you. Thank you for making it to the end of the Manx Radio newscast. You are obviously someone with exquisite taste. May I politely suggest you might want to subscribe to this and a wide range of Manx Radio podcasts at your favourite podcast provider, so our best bits will magically appear on your smartphone. Thank you.